Hello everyone, I am Abigail Rosales, and today I will talk about Critical Friendships by the author Thomas Farrell. I hope you enjoy it. I would like to start this presentation with a discussion question for you. Then I will try to explain what critical friendships are, and I will talk about the two case studies that were mentioned in the reading. I will also tell you about critical friends, team teaching, peer coaching, and the difference between these three terms. Then I will give you the conclusions and I will show you the reference. So let me ask you the following question. When you hear the words critical friendship, what do you think they refer to? I want you to please write down your answers in the Noodle forum. If you need some help, you can look at the following pictures and think about all the years we've spent together in this BA, and of course, think about your experience as English teachers. Now, what are critical friendships? To understand what critical friendships are, it is important to remember that the term critical, as the author mentions, does not imply something negative. Critical friendships are actually very helpful, especially for teachers who have undergone self-monitoring and self-reflection, because as we know, they can come with many difficulties and many challenges. Because of this, some teachers may need the support of other teachers. Critical friendships then are formed when there is an arrangement between a teacher and another teacher that acts as a critical friend. In this friendship, both teachers collaborate in the exploration of teaching and learning a language. This means that the critical friend will give advice as a friend, not as a consultant. But what does the research say about critical friendships? Well, it tells us that it can reduce the sense of isolation teachers may feel, especially those first years of teaching. It also tells us that it takes time to evolve, that it can promote collegiality because teachers are working collaboratively. It can promote shared observation and associated benefits, as we have seen in observation class. And it requires that trust must be negotiated and earned between the teachers involved. Now let's talk about the first case study, non-native speaker teacher and native speaker critical friend. This first case study is about a Korean EFL teacher called Mihe. I'm sorry for the pronunciation. This teacher's reflection was done through 6 class observations that were audio recorded and through teaching journals. The reason why she wanted a critical friend is because she tried to change her teaching methods, but she just couldn't. She told us that she would go back to teaching the way she was taught by her professor, and this was a problem for her. She discussed this problem with her critical friend, who helped her come up with a solution. After this problem was solved, thanks to the critical friend's advice, the teacher wanted to focus on working on the rules for speech and discussion with a different class. So they both decided to use a modified version of a seating chart, or also known as seating chart observation record, which you can see here in the slide. The second chart, as you can see, shows a dramatic change in the communication pattern. The positive changes in this case are a result of this critical friendship. Now, the second case study, native speaker teacher and native speaker critical friend. This second case study is about a critical friendship that lasted over 16 weeks. It was formed by an EFL Australian teacher in Korea and the author, Thomas Farrell. This teacher's name is Greg. He wanted to have a critical friend because he wanted to talk about his teaching practice in general, and the teaching of a set of specific classes in a private company. This teacher also kept a journal as a way of reflecting in his teaching practice. In this case, Greg invited this critical friend to observe his classes with the use of a video camera. There was no specific role for the critical friend other than to manage the observation process and to discuss the teacher's practice. That was it. The strategies that they both applied were beneficial for Greg because they helped him on his reflective process, which was the initial goal of having this critical friend. And now that we're mentioning that, what are critical friends? Well, critical friends are teachers who collaborate in a two-way mode that encourages discussion and reflection in order to improve the quality of language teaching and learning. However, there are some things that we need to consider before becoming critical friends. First of all, we need to be ready to reflect. Some teachers are ready before they become teachers. Some teachers have been teaching for years, but they are not ready to take this step yet. So we need to make sure that we are ready to start this reflection process. Then, the person who is reflecting needs to be in a good psychological state because the critical friendship involves self-disclosure, and the teacher would need to confront any inconsistencies that may occur in the process. Lastly, this friendship needs to be based on trust, so that the friend will not be afraid of challenging the teacher if they observe instances where the teacher could be challenged. After learning about the benefits of critical friendships, it is also important to talk about team teaching, which involves two or more teachers working together to plan, conduct, and evaluate the learning activities for a class or for a group of learners. As the author mentions, the teachers involved in this arrangement work together as equals and share the responsibility of the teaching process. So now look at the following images. Do you have any experience with team teaching? If you do, you can share your experience in the forum. But just think about this semester and last semester. We had two classes where there was team teaching. So we have some experience with it, but not as teachers, as students. And some of you may have experience with team teaching. So maybe share that experience with us in the forum. What are the benefits of team teaching? Well, it provides opportunities for teachers to discuss their teaching, the recognition and appreciation of alternative methods and techniques of teaching and evaluating lessons. It provides a ready-made classroom observation situation without the evaluative component, which can be very scary sometimes. It provides an effective means of teacher development and more opportunities for individual interaction with the teacher. This is especially helpful with large classes where there are too many students to interact with just one teacher. There are different arrangements in team teaching. One of them is equal partners, where both teachers have the same experience and the same knowledge, and all decisions are shared equally. There is also mentor and apprentice. In this case, one teacher has more experience. It is considered an expert, and therefore they have more responsibility than the novice teacher. There is also leader and participant, where one teacher assumes the leadership because they have more experience with team teaching. And there is the case of native advanced speaker and less proficient speaker, which we could see in the first case study, where there was this teacher who was a non-native teacher, and she had this critical friend who was a native speaker. In this case, the native or advanced teacher takes more responsibility of the linguistic aspects. Now, let's talk about peer coaching. This refers to the arrangement where a peer helps the observed teacher in the development of new knowledge, new skills, and to improve their reflective process. I do not know about you, but when I hear the word coach, the first thing that comes to my mind is the coach of a football team. That is because the more experienced teacher, meaning the coach, does something similar to what a coach does with a football team, provides some sort of training, helps, and guides that teacher. And here the author mentions the following ways in which a coach can help a less experienced teacher. They can encourage less experienced teachers in setting and attaining short, but also long-term goals. To teach less experienced teacher the skills necessary to survive and promote career scope professional development. To protect the less experienced teachers by limiting their exposure to responsibility. To provide opportunities for less experienced teachers to observe and participate in their work, and to act as role models. The roles for the teacher in a peer coaching relationship are the following. Be committed to peer coaching to analyze and improve instruction. Be willing to develop and use a common language of collaboration in order to discuss the total teaching act without praise or blame. To request to enter a peer coaching relationship, for example, by requesting a classroom observation visit, and to observe as coach if so asked. To be open-minded and willing to look for better ways of conducting classroom businesses, and to act as a colleague and as a professional. What is the difference between these three terms? Because they can be a bit confusing, but let's look at those differences. Critical friends are where two or more teachers can gain from having this relationship based on trust in a non-judgmental manner. The benefit of team teaching is that the two teachers share the responsibility equally for teaching and evaluating a class so that each teacher can learn more about the strengths and expertise of their colleague. But as we've seen, there are 4 different types of arrangements in team teaching. And the goal of peer coaching is to support a teacher's existing strengths rather than to evaluate them. It can help inexperienced teachers learn from more experienced colleagues in a supportive environment so that they can try out new teaching methods and get feedback. Finally, the conclusion. The author came up with the conclusion that these 3 arrangements, critical friends, team teaching, and peer coaching, help teachers work together to reflect on current practices, expand, refine, and build new skills, share ideas, teach one another, conduct classroom research, or solve problems in the workplace. My question for you is, do you have a critical friend? Do you have any experience with team teaching or peer coaching? What can you tell us about your experiences? This is my reference. Thank you very much for your time and your attention. I hope you liked this presentation. And if you have any questions, please post them in the forum. I will happily answer all of your questions and all of your comments. Thank you very much.